Does anyone get tired of looking at the stars? I've never looked up to the sky and thought, oh, well, this is so boring. I've seen it all my life. The Adagio is exactly in the same way. My name is Christian Mocellaru. I am the music director of l'Orchestre National de France and the conductor for the Barber Adagio. These days, this Adagio is well known because it is performed in its orchestral version, meaning the full string section of the orchestra. But in its conception, it was actually composed for a string quartet. It's one movement of a string quartet. And Barber wrote this piece later on than for the orchestra because it is so beautiful, and it has become perhaps the most popular composition of Samuel Barber because it is used for many occasions. Many people use it either to commemorate something sad or when they want to speak about something very intimate, very deep, personal. The music is extremely powerful because it begins in a very fragile way. It begins very, very soft. In fact, the very first note that the violins come in, this and then it takes a long time before we hear a harmony, before we hear the rest of the strings join. I think this is what makes it so attractive, because you hear this note and immediately you think, oh, what comes next? It's one big crescendo, basically, to the climax of the piece, and then there's a brief pause, and then we come back to the end of the piece in diminuendo. And I think these qualities of its simplicity, but at the same time beauty and sophistication behind the simplicity, has made it extremely attractive. It is actually quite difficult for the orchestra to play it in a way that is really, truly the best, because it requires so much concentration and so much control of the sound. If you hear yourself, if you hear your own sound, it's too loud. So the way that we make this sound as an orchestra, you have to play where you're listening for someone else, but you have to play so soft that you don't hear yourself. You know, for me, the tempo of the piece is so much about the context of my mood, because it is dictated by my own feelings. And it has happened to me so many times that something puts me in a mood where music must stop. Music must be slower for me to be able to appreciate it. Well, it's impossible to conduct the beat or the rhythm in this piece. My conducting gestures always try to represent the musicians I'm conducting. So if you think about the way that strings make this sound, their bow goes this way. It never goes up and down. You know, it goes sideways. And then my hands I conduct this piece in the same way. And it takes a long time for the sound to actually exist, which is why my hand, that's the sound right there. But it takes a long time for the musicians to create the sound. Music is a language, and really to criticize the speed of my language, it has to do with how you hear, not how I perform, which is fascinating. So for me, the tempo of Barber Adagio is only relevant in the moment that it exists. The first time I conducted it, I still remember, was with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and I remember I started conducting it thinking that I was going to conduct the music, and nothing what I did mattered because they played it in the way that they know how to play this music. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, I have to join this party. I can't control this party. I have to join and just be part of this ensemble. I'm not really leading the ensemble. I'm just part of it. I talk often about the fact that music for me represents a pathway to a spiritual world where I actually meet so many of the people that I care about. And I love this. That first note actually opens the door for me where I feel like I'm in a conversation with Barber, and at the same time with my father, and at the same time with all these great people that have come before, and I discover new things with them. And I forget that I even exist. I forget that. It just becomes a spiritual experience that is enabled by the beauty of the music. My father not being alive anymore, he is the first one I meet when I open the door to the spiritual world. He's there always to welcome me. And it opens every time I make music. He's there. He was a musician as well, and I just feel his presence right next to me. And that's why, it's so wonderful, because now I look forward to those moments.